Hello there, my name is Alicia and welcome to my channel if you haven't been here before. So I'm really excited to film this video today. It's been years in the making and I'm so grateful that I'm in the place both physically and mentally in order to get you guys this information. But I want to start off with a really important disclaimer. So today I'll be sharing a little bit about what's helped me on my undiagnosed journey, but I do want to give a disclaimer that I am not a medical professional in any sort of way. So please consult a medical professional before implementing any of these into your routine or making any changes in what you're doing. I'm simply just sharing what I found hope in and what has helped me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that any of this is right for you. So I just want to put this disclaimer here. I'm not going to be giving any specific recommendations in terms of names, places, items, anything like that, just because I know that it varies so much case by case, and being undiagnosed is so weird. But I am just going to give very broad strokes of things that I have done that have helped me that maybe you're interested in just kind of researching more about. So please utilize your own medical professionals in this journey, but I am here to kind of give you some hope. That is my goal with this video, is just for you guys to leave even 1% more hopeful, because I know how hard it is being undiagnosed. So I'm going to open up really briefly here, 2 minutes, just my background and why I'm even making this video. So back in 2018, I was about a year away from graduating college. I had been an athlete for 14 years, really active every single day, doing a job that was on my feet as well. And I started experiencing some unexplained symptoms. And like anyone who's in that position, I definitely did my homework and, booked appointments with multiple different specialists. I have a whole list, but I'm not going to go through that right now. I did as many tests as I knew possible at that point in time with each specialist, and then did so many scans, etc. And so that was kind of my life from mid 2018, all of 2019, all of 2020, and then into 2021. It actually culminated where I was at a research kind of facility, and at that hospital, basically, they had this program for people who are undiagnosed. And it took me so long to get into that. And I was super stoked when I did, because that meant that a panel of physicians were going to look through my case and kind of put the pieces together and hopefully give me an answer that I was so desperately seeking out and paid a lot of money for, put a lot of time into. I was a girl who was literally searching at the library for different things because I was just so desperate for an answer and didn't understand why my body felt so foreign to me after years of really utilizing my body in order to perform sports at a really high level. So that ended up at, we had the appointment, they looked over my records, and we're pretty much like, at this point, we don't know what's happening. So this could be a genetic disease, it could be a rare disease, it could be a common disease just presenting really weird, but basically we can't really do anything for you in this moment. And if you want to do genetic testing or whatnot, like, you can, but it's expensive and we probably don't even have like a treatment for it anyway. So basically we would just be treating your symptoms. But at that point, I was kind of over the experimental medications or trying different things just to see if they work and having tons of side effects. So I kind of declined, and that's where me and conventional medicine sort of parted ways in terms of me finding an answer for this specific situation. And so starting in 2021, again, went back to the drawing board, went back to some research, started making a lot of lifestyle changes, both physically, mentally, environmentally, all those things, and also started looking for other alternatives to help me get better, because at that point I was very much in the depths of experiencing severe symptoms every single day. And now I'm at the point where luckily, I am feeling super functional. I still do have some symptoms that are unexplained, some symptoms that are more explained, or I have ways to cope with them. But basically, I'm in a much better place than I was 6 years ago, much better place than I was even 3 years ago. And so I really wanted to make this video for you guys who are maybe in the depths of things and don't see a way out, because during this journey, there were definitely several points where I just felt utterly and completely hopeless. I really didn't even want to be alive at those points, because all I saw in my future was a future full of pain, full of no answers, full of medications with side effects that I hated. And it was really, really hard. It was hard to get beyond that. It was hard to get beyond not having an answer for something. And it was hard to think about just how to get through every day. But luckily, like I said again, I feel like I'm in a much better place where even though I don't have all the answers, I definitely feel very, very hopeful right now in terms of where I'm at currently, and also what options are available to me right now and what options will be more available to me in the future, whether that be financially or just different things I can try. So today, where I want to speak to is how I see things getting better, because like I said, 6 years ago, things were in a much, much different place. And here are 10 good things actually that are happening. And I don't want to make light of this because, like I said, I understand completely how hard this can be. And if you're in one of those hard moments, please know I understand you. Like I said, I have been in the depths of despair and really just thinking that there's no point to even living. And now I have found hope. So I just want to share some of that hope with you. And that's really been the goal of me ever sharing about my journey, is just to make it 1% easier for you, because I wish I had a video like this 6 years ago. I wish that I had someone to look at and be like, oh, okay, this does get better. And I didn't. And so this is hopefully here to help you. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So let's start with number 1. So these are 10 ways that I think things have improved, like I said, since beginning my journey in 2018. So access to free education. So, like I said, I was a girl with the laptop at the library every single day after work or after doing schoolwork. I would just sit there and really just research, like, hey, what are my options here? And what I didn't see, I saw a lot of, WebMD, or I saw a lot of case studies that I would actually sit down and read through, or at least kind of type out what words I was looking for and read those paragraphs, and then kind of compile all the data and then bring that to my practitioners. And while I think that did help a little, because I knew what I was talking, not that I knew what I was talking about, but I knew kind of the research behind it, I also think that I wasn't being taken seriously because I was a young female in her 20s. And yeah, sometimes you just don't get taken seriously, even if you do all the research. But what I am here to say now is I found a lot of really good online support in order to help with health. So you can actually really advocate for yourself here and know how you should be treated, know kind of what tests you could go into your appointments asking for, and how to just make some lifestyle changes. And the control you feel from this is so good. And like I said, in 2018, I didn't necessarily see practitioners making podcasts, practitioners making YouTube videos, people putting online courses out there. And so I find this really hopeful because I, not every single day, but at least once a week, am listening to podcasts from practitioners that I align with their values. And there's something that catches my eye, and it's like how they helped someone with this symptom, or what tests you should run for this, or I listen to it and then I can see, does this actually align with my journey? Is this something that I should be advocating for or not? And I just think that it's so wonderful that people are doing this, and you can really find practitioners that you align with. And even if you can't work with them directly, you could still take their advice, or perhaps you could work with them directly. And how cool is that you could actually choose your providers in this day and age and work virtually with them? So what I would say here is, please don't take medical advice from just anyone. There's definitely a lot of people putting out YouTube videos, podcasts, blogs, articles saying here's how to do this, or here's how to negate this symptom. And maybe it worked for them, but if they're not a practitioner, someone who has gone through some sort of certification, I would just be very wary, because I think a lot of people position themselves as health coaches, but they really don't have the data and the science in the background. So please do your homework. Make sure these people have good reviews. Make sure they have some sort of certification and that they really do, they are trained how to help you. I've definitely taken advice from people who are just kind of like on the internet, and I haven't, maybe that's not true. Maybe I haven't taken advice from those people, but I've seen it. And I think that that can be really harmful. So again, if you're working with a nutritionist, make sure they're certified. If you're working with a doctor, make sure they have a medical degree. If you're working with, someone who specializes in something, make sure they've gotten training from an expert. So that is my number one thing, just access to free education. And this isn't in any particular order of like, oh, you got to do this first. But I'm just so encouraged with what I am seeing on the internet these days and people just speaking out and being really open and honest and truthful and quite honestly giving so much value away, even though they don't have to. So super excited for this. Okay, number two, and this one, again, please do your due diligence and look it up and do the research around this. I've heard different things, but again, in my experience living here in the United States, I have had more access to testing over the last 6 years. So when all this first started, there wasn't really a lot of things you could do if practitioners weren't ordering tests for you. And again, being a young female and someone who is constantly dismissed, it was really hard for me to get access to certain tests, like blood panels, like basic blood panels, right? Like they would order it once and things would be a little off and they wouldn't be able to explain it. But they wouldn't order it again because they would be like, oh, well, we already did it. But I'd be like, why are things different? And so for me in my journey, it's been super cool to be able to order my own testing because working with alternative practitioners, doing some lifestyle changes, I've been able to directly see how that's correlated to my blood values actually getting closer to normal. And so I really value it. It is something you have to pay out of pocket for. I don't think your insurance will cover something if a doctor doesn't order it. But again, like I've kind of gone out of the conventional realm and really like I'm paying out of pocket for most things right now. Actually, I don't have insurance, so I'm paying out of pocket for everything right now in terms of my health. So that's one thing, but I've just really, really valued it. It makes me feel like I have more control over my health because I am able to check certain levels, or if there's a test that I feel like wasn't ran or missed or whatnot, that's also there. And I would have loved this actually when I was waiting months and months for specialists for them to then order their tests for me and then them to be like, oh, it's not in this specialty, let's go to the next one. Like if I had known what they were gonna order, I probably could have just done it and like bypassed that whole appointment and known that those tests were normal. So anyway, again, not sure how it works in other countries, but I'm just so grateful for the service. And yeah, I'm not going to mention kind of how I found it or anything like that, but do your research if this is something you're looking into. And yeah, I'm not trying to gatekeep or anything. I'm just trying to be really careful here because I do think, again, like I'm not a practitioner, so don't take advice from me. These are just, again, tips that have helped me, and I don't want to steer you guys in the wrong direction, but this is what I did that I feel like has helped that both physically and mentally for me. Okay, root cause medicine. So I'm putting that, and that's like a really weird term, but what I'm talking about here is natural functional nutritionists, functional medical doctors, acupuncturists, etc., etc. So people who don't fall into the realm of your typical MD, but who are trained and certified in health and who can help you. And so what these people are really geared towards is finding the root cause of your health rather than prescribing medications that you're on long term. And this was super attractive to me because, like I said in my intro, I had tried several medications that just were not helping me and I became very averse to them. And all I really wanted when I was going to these practitioners was to find answers or at least be able to manage my symptoms. And it felt like every time they were like, oh, just take this, it was just kind of like them dismissing me or putting a band-aid on me rather than actually trying to figure out what was going on. So if conventional medicine is working for you, then that is great. It just didn't work for me. So I love that there are practitioners out there who are really focused on like not just what's happening, but why it's happening. And I think it goes so much deeper because then you're able to kind of like solve what's going on in your body so that you can truly heal and you can maybe prevent things from happening in the future. And when I first started in 2018, I didn't know anything about this. To be honest, like it wasn't until 2021 that I had even heard of a naturopath. Like I literally didn't know. And now my Instagram shows me, probably because of my searches, but it shows me all the time like different ways to work with alternative medicine, both in person and virtually. And I just think that this field is growing and expanding. And maybe it's because I'm focusing on it in terms of like when I'm doing research for myself or even just like I'm interested in it. So I don't know, like I definitely think it's growing. I think there's more awareness to it. I've even heard of other people like kind of unrelated that are kind of not preaching this, but saying like they're using this too. And so it just makes me really hopeful that more and more people, when they are going through school, are focusing on root cause medicine, or potentially they are a doctor and they're switching over to root cause medicine, or they're getting some sort of certification in a functional realm. And so it just makes me so happy that hopefully there's going to be more options, more affordable options as well, more virtual options if you live in a town where maybe these people don't practice. And so I wish I knew about this at the beginning of my journey. And this really helps, I think, specifically those who are undiagnosed, because going to conventional medicine, you maybe have like 15 minutes, if that, with a practitioner, and they're so busy, but you really need someone to sit down and look at your case and really analyze it and think about it. And this is where these root cause medicine providers come in. So do your research and definitely see if there's someone that you can connect with either virtually or in person. And it's just been a huge lifesaver to me to be able to know that this kind of service is there. And I have worked with more natural practitioners over the past few years and even know that there's more that I want to work with in the future. Okay, number 4, and this is probably not the right term, but I'm going to say med spa. So what I mean by that is businesses you could go into to get alternative health treatments. So things like IV therapy, red light therapy, cold plunging, saunas, etc. I think it's so great that this is accessible. Again, I did not hear of this until 2021. And I'm only going to speak to IV therapy because that's something that I've personally done. Now, with the other ones, I just know that you can get them at your house. However, when I have searched, I have found places in my local area where I could go do red light therapy as like a one-time session, or sauna as a one-time session or a package. And so, again, I think that's super cool because not everybody could go buy those straight away. But if that's something that you're looking at to experiment with for your health, then of course, contact a provider and make sure that's the right fit for you. But also, super cool that you could just go try it out, right? So with the IV therapy, I have to credit this to really saving me. So at the point where I started IV therapy, I went from fevers almost daily, extreme fatigue daily, to being able to actually, this was the first time I felt functional again. And I would feel when it was wearing off too, like I would feel super exhausted, but I don't know where I would be without this. And I could go get it as I needed and kind of budget my time around it. It wasn't something that was like prescribed. So it wasn't like, oh, you can only do it on this day of the week, or you only get one per month or something like that. At this place specifically that I went to, I could go in and do it whenever I wanted, of course, during their business hours. And yeah, it was really great. They had a whole team there who was able to look through my case and recommend specific blends for me. And again, it just really, really helped my symptoms. And this is where I really utilized ordering blood tests as well, just to make sure that what they were recommending to me was actually moving my levels back into line versus like having it go crazy and out of line. And to be honest, this was the first time that my blood counts actually were in normal values for like 2 to 3 years. Like after doing IVs for a few months, that was like the game changer. Like I had changed nothing else. And it was really incredible to see and just such a transformation for me. Okay. Ability to work from home. So again, going back to 2018, there wasn't a lot of jobs from home that I saw, and maybe again, I just wasn't connected. But since the pandemic, I think there's been so many more jobs created at home. And so I'm really, really excited for this because for me, having a job from home was a life changer because again, going back to like getting the IVs, I was able to work my schedule around that, getting appointments. If I was having a day where I was just experiencing a lot of symptoms, I wouldn't have to go to work and suffer through it. I would just stay home and still be able to work like from my bed, from the couch, etc. And luckily I don't have, well, really haven't really had any days like that lately other than when I like had a flu or whatnot a few months ago. But yeah, it was really cool for me because the job before this one, I was commuting an hour each way. I was also experiencing like seizures. I had a lot of pain. So it was really hard to kind of get up and go to work. And I would do it because I needed the money. But it probably wasn't the greatest for my health. And now I could just take complete control of it. I have complete control of when I start work, when I end work. There's days that like I need a little bit more rest. If there's days where I just need to work from the couch or something like that, like I can do that. And that is huge, being able to do that. Again, the job I had before this one that I just mentioned, there was times where I would start work at 4 in the morning. There's times I would work till 10:30 at night. And so I could never get that restful sleep and like circadian rhythm. And I really think working from home has changed a lot for me. And again, okay, going into this, like I think finances, a lot of people don't talk about finances and medical issues at the same time. But for me, it's been a huge struggle. So I went from having a savings account when this whole started to literally spending every single penny I had and going into like significant debt because of trying to find answers. So if I wasn't able to work from home and couldn't do that, I don't know where I would be right now. It's really been a blessing that I've been able to earn money from home and also focus on my health at the same time. And it's just given me back a quality of life that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think a lot of people are in the same position, right? Like paying for healthcare is expensive, paying for alternative care is expensive. And for me, I definitely needed a job in order to do that. And having that in-person job was just setting me back a lot at that point. So that has kind of been my experience with working from home and how that's really improved my quality of life. And like I said, there's so many more jobs now online than there was back in 2018. Okay, the next one is improvements in tech. So, over the last few years, I really have seen improvements just in wearable technology that have really changed the game in healthcare that I'm just so excited about because, again, like I said previously in this video, I was not taken seriously at all. Like, they were like, well, you look healthy, you don't look like you're sick, you're not overweight, like nothing is wrong with you. Like why are you here basically? When it's like you don't understand like how I'm having all of these problems and I actually really do need help despite what I look like. And it took a lot. Like I would have to bring other people to my appointments with me, and I mean, that's hard too because then they have to take time out of their schedule and then you're like dependent on somebody else. And I lost a lot of confidence in myself at that point in time because I felt like what I was saying and what I was feeling and what I was thinking just was not accurate. But now I've come to realize that that was more of a reflection of the people I was talking to versus like what I was actually going through. So going back to improvements in tech, I really like that, any sort of like Fitbit, Apple Watch, any sort of thing like that is actually tracking all your data. So your heart rate throughout the day and night, skin temperature, uh, HRV, oxygen, so many things that you can literally get a printout and like give it to your doctor. So for me, it was really, really frustrating because I was going to, like I said, all these specialists, and they're like, "Oh, you're probably not sleeping well." And I was like, "No, I'm sleeping like 8 to 10 to 12 hours a night. Like I'm sleeping so much." And yet I couldn't actually show them that. And like now that I have the Fitbit and the data and everything, it's like, oh, I am getting a lot of REM and I am getting a lot of deep sleep. So don't think this is a sleep issue, but that wasn't something I could necessarily prove. Like they weren't watching me sleep. So it was an easy cop out of like, oh, well, it's you. Like it's not on us, you know? And then the other thing is, they were saying I didn't exercise enough. And it was really frustrating again, because like I said, I had a job on my feet. So when I was saying like, no, I'm pretty active, there was like, well, yeah, like maybe you could be more active or whatnot. And so if I had just been able to be like, look, here's the steps I'm getting, here is the sleep I'm getting, something else is going on. Like it's not these things. You could check them off your list because I'm checking those boxes. Like obviously when you're talking to someone, they can dismiss you, but the data doesn't lie. So you could be taken so much more seriously if you have these things, and maybe you are being taken seriously, and I think that's great. I think everyone should be taken seriously, but if you're in a position where you aren't, I would definitely and scratch that. I won't say recommend, but I would say it helps me. It helped me, and it helps me now, realizing I have months of data, and I actually track these on a spreadsheet too, so that if I was ever at a practitioner again, really wanting support, and they were like, "Oh, but this," it's like, "Oh, okay, here's the data and evidence to back it up." So that has just made me feel so much more secure and actually not double questioning myself or second guessing myself when it comes to, oh, but maybe I could do more, or maybe it is my sleep, or maybe it's this or that. And it's like I could doubt myself, but then I have the evidence to be like, no, I can trust myself. Okay. Access to therapy and coaching. So I put and coaching because sometimes a traditional therapist maybe isn't the best route for you specifically. I've actually worked with both. Currently, I'm working with a certified therapist, but I have worked with coaches before that have been super helpful as well. Because while going through an undiagnosed illness, like even though maybe when you started off mentally things were pretty good, it is really hard because you are maybe not being believed, maybe grieving things you can't do because of these physical restraints, maybe struggling financially, maybe you're not knowing what you can do next, and it can be really confusing. And so I found that it's really, really helpful to have someone just to strategize with, just to get those emotions out, and be able to be heard, because I think that one of the biggest things for me in this whole process was feeling unheard, not validated, like I was crazy, like no one would believe me. But actually, working with a therapist now, it's been really, really great because I've learned to trust myself and learned that, okay, like what I'm feeling makes sense given the situation. And I also have a right to feel the way I do. So, um, like I said, things have changed a lot in this since 2018. In that case, I was trying to go to therapists, but because I was changing jobs, because my insurance was changing, because the pandemic was happening, going to a therapist's office would be a little bit of a struggle for me because it would be after a long work day, barely had energy to get through work. Some days I couldn't even do that. And then trying to drive to go to a therapist to schedule a time, like it was really hard. And so now being able to access this online has been a game changer because I'm able to schedule it around my work schedule, able to just hop on a computer, and I think even if I was having going back, even if I was having even those worst health days, I could still hop on my phone and do a phone call or a Zoom visit versus having to actually like go and get in your car and be physically present if you're not feeling good or having more severe symptoms. So I think that this is pretty cool. And I'm really happy that this technology is here and that it is easier to gain access to mental health support right now. Okay, going into wearable medical devices. And I know I just talked about like wearables like a Fitbit, but this is actually more of a medical specific device. So the only thing I'm going to talk about here is CGMs, which are continuous glucose monitors, because that is the only like professional medical device that I have used. But even these back in 2018 weren't available for just a random person to order. You'd have to get a prescription, I believe. I don't know. I didn't really research it. But this was a game changer for me because I was able to insert it myself, order it myself, pay for it myself, and then just gain so much insight into my health. And I was suffering with seizures for probably from like 2019 through 2023, like quite a while. And I had tried different medications, had tried working with different doctors, again, done tests, done scans, all the things. And no one had checked my blood sugar. Crazy enough. Like they had when I did blood tests, but not, I would have nocturnal seizures, so not through the night. I wore CGM for like one day and recognized like I had crazy low blood sugar, like in the 30s at night. And I was like, oh, like this is obviously a problem. And so being able to use CGMs for like 6 months, I was able to like virtually eliminate seizures for myself. And this isn't the case for everybody with seizures, but so cool that I was able to use this technology to give me some answers that I may have never found if these things weren't available to be ordered by consumers. And yeah, I'm so happy with that. It was a recommendation from a certified functional nutritionist, and so being able to just do this was so insightful. One of the best things that's happened on my journey. The IVs were really great. Working with a root cause practitioners was really great, but also the CGM was life changing for me. And that doesn't mean that everybody needs a CGM, but just seeing that more technology is being released for people to get more answers for their health is really encouraging for me. I don't know what else will be released in the future, but just knowing that I can continue ordering CGMs if I ever need them is so comforting to me, not having to go through someone else to get these. Okay, so meditation. Putting this on the list too of some of the top things that have been helpful for me. So I've researched a lot about meditation. As you can see, I have many meditation videos on my channel. And I just like, I buy into the data and I buy into the science so hard on this because there's so much evidence and case studies out there. So do your own research on this. But I believe it could help you both physically and emotionally. So I believe that for myself. And it's growing in mainstream culture even. So there's so many meditations on YouTube. There's so many meditation apps. And even if it doesn't help your physical health, like being able to de-stress, being able just help yourself mentally when dealing with an already stressful situation of being undiagnosed is phenomenal. And so I'm just so grateful that this is something that's more accessible as well. And that, again, I hadn't really heard of this until probably 2021. And so, yeah, just really grateful for meditation too. And then the last thing on this list is that I'm going to talk about it. So during this whole process, I felt so lonely, so isolated from everybody in the world because when I first started, I was looking up like different symptoms and I would see all these people on YouTube or Instagram or whatnot being like, oh, here's my symptoms and I got diagnosed with this. And they would paint, not everyone would paint like a really happy picture, but it'd be like, here's how I got through it, or here's how I'm managing it. And there was no one talking about undiagnosed illness. Like, literally, I couldn't find anybody on the internet. And so I felt super shameful, super embarrassed to talk about it. I really just didn't want to talk to anybody at this point in time. And that ruined a lot of things for me. I literally cut communication with like all but a few people in my life because I just felt so ashamed of not having answers. I thought there was something wrong with me, and yeah, it was so hard. And so I just want to be a voice to the community, be a voice to people who are also dealing with being undiagnosed, and just knowing that you can trust yourself. And even though things are really hard, there is still hope out there. There are still things you could try. There are tests you haven't done. There is modalities you haven't tried. There are practitioners you haven't worked with. And it's been a huge 180 for me in my journey just to even be here to talk to you guys and say that I feel hopeful about the future, and I feel hopeful about where I am right now and the way things are shifting in the world. And I am hopeful that someday I'll get all of the answers. And I am also hopeful that in the midst of seeking these answers, that I can also find ways to help myself and just still feel good. And yeah, so I really want to be here just to give you guys hope and community, and just to encourage you guys to keep trying, because I know how hard it could be, and you're worth it. And I hope that you can see through my journey. I never want to say like, do this and do this and you have to feel this way, but I think the best thing you could do is just be an example for others. And so hopefully I can be that example for you guys of like knowing that I've literally been at the point where everything was so awful, and now being at the point where I feel like I live a pretty quality life. And I also feel like things will just keep getting better. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please like if this made an impact on you. Subscribe if you want to see more about it. I will keep talking about this as well as the other things I talk about on my channel. And leave a comment below if you have ever been undiagnosed, what you've been doing, or if you're in the midst of it right now, or you're trying to help someone who's undiagnosed. I'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much, and see you in the next video.